So I'm here today reviewing the BMW i3. And when I first saw the i3 several years ago, my first thought was, wow, what on earth have BMW done? You know, have they really lost it when it comes to looks and the way they look at the car? It's a really bit of a weird looking car. It's very different from anything they'd produced before, and certainly not what I was expecting. However, I'm still not quite convinced over the look of it. But when I was in the showroom, the BMW showroom, there was a rather mouth-watering BMW i8. And parked right next to the i8, there was an i3. And as I saw them parked next to each other, you could certainly start to see the family resemblance. They had some similar lines and similar curves, and you know, there was a distinct look that was undeniably both cars had. However, I still can't get away from the fact that I don't think the i3 is one of BMW's best looking cars that they've produced. And therefore I guess a good description may be that the i3 is the i8's ugly little brother. Which is fine and maybe okay. I've got an ugly little brother. And you sort of learn to live with them from a young age and learn to love them in an odd sort of a way. Driving the i3 is actually quite a nice experience. It has a pretty quick pickup off the mark, and in fact it's quite impressive. I would even say that it is quicker than other electric vehicles in its class. Like all electric cars, the BMW is an automatic with just a simple forward and reverse gear. However, it does have this regenerative braking system that is quite aggressive, and it will, as you come off the accelerator, it will pull the car right down to a complete stop. This means you can actually drive the car with a single pedal. Now, part of me quite likes this, yet there is another part that isn't entirely convinced. Now, this regenerative braking doesn't help with smooth driving. Just for example, you're coming to a tight turn. You come off the throttle and it starts braking into the corner. Now, unless you're very smooth with applying the throttle, you tend to accelerate out of the corner like a boy racer on his 17th birthday, with your passengers flinging their heads back and getting some complaints of whiplash or whatever. Okay, I'm probably exaggerating the point somewhat. But I'm sure given enough time you will get used to the accelerator, and then there are some advantages in you know, with the battery life, etc, etc. Now, this led me to the point, once you do get used to it, what happens when you get into a normal car? When you're used to that regenerative braking coming off the accelerator, you're coming into a tight turn, you come off the accelerator expecting some braking, and there is no braking. And now you're struggling to apply the brakes a little bit harder, throwing the car into the corner like that boy racer on his 17th birthday. Now, this shouldn't really be a problem because actually the car handles very well. I'm quite impressed with the way that you can throw it into a corner, and it does cope. It is full of electronics that BMW have put in place that actually make you look like a hero sometimes if you did want to go into a corner a little bit faster than expected. It is rear-wheel drive. And I quite like having a rear-wheel drive car. I don't know why all manufacturers don't produce rear-wheel drive cars, but there's very few of them out there. The problem is that there are a number of drivers out there that don't really understand the difference between oversteer and understeer, and if you try to explain it, well, you're probably wasting your breath as much as you would as if you're talking about the offside rule to your wife. You know, it doesn't matter how much you talk about it, they don't really get it. However, that's not really a problem being a rear-wheel drive car. But again, because the electronics are so good, you can floor it on a corner, and if it does lose a little bit of traction, it just sorts itself out, and you just keep going and with a big smile on your face thinking that was cool, wasn't it? Now, the i3 that I have here isn't the base model. It comes with some upgraded trim, it comes with a sports package, and it comes with the professional media system. Well, I quite like the level of trim in this car. I mean, it is upgraded. It has this sort of retro wood styling and part leather seats, and I think they look quite trendy and quite nice. It still has the sort of what looks like recycled plastic bits on some parts of the door and in front of the dashboard. I'm not entirely sure about that, but on the whole, I think compared with other vehicles in its class, it actually looks quite nice. I like the displays, both in front of the driver and in the centre. However, I often wondered about why car manufacturers don't use sort of tablet technology, if you like, with the dashboards, allowing you to reposition icons and features as you like, as you see fit. It's all very doable with regards to technology these days. You know, you could have the speedo in one place and the clock in another, you know, the outside temperature where you like. Why can't they do that? I don't know. But on the whole, the layout is quite nice. Then we have the professional media system. You know, it's quite an expensive option, but it's you know, especially with the online services from BMW. In fact, I believe it comes free with the car for 3 years when you first buy it. It's actually quite a good tool, and I would recommend it. I had a 3 Series for 3 years, and I found it very useful to have the professional media system in there. Now, I mean, saying this, you know, it does come with rather a fat manual. In fact, when I first got it, I read the manual 3 times before I really felt I understood the detail. And I like technology. You know, I can't imagine how my elderly mother would get a head around it. Now, I'm not saying it's complicated, but what I am saying is that there's just an awful lot of features and information in there, and too many to review here. However, I mean, the Sat-Nav is good, especially with the traffic updates. It's well laid out, and you can have split screens and different views. You can plan your route at home. You can plan your route on your home computer and then download it to your car. You can even write out your destination on the little knob in the middle. You can scribble your finger on the top of it, and that's maybe a feature you like. You can read your Facebook updates while you're driving, or read those to you, so you can keep your eyes on the road. Why you would, why anybody would, I don't know. But it would also read emails, and you can unlock your car from your mobile phone. Now, in fact, when it comes to unlocking your car from your mobile phone, there was one occasion that my wife went off in her car with my car keys, leaving me stranded outside the car. And I thought, what do I do? So I tried calling her. She didn't answer while she was driving, obviously, as you wouldn't. So I thought, I can unlock the car with my phone and get in the car. And then I got in the car, and I thought, well, okay, at least I can sit in the warmth and listen to the radio. But actually then I thought, well, actually these cars have an SOS button. I wonder what happens if I push it. I wonder, like in the movies, you see that you see them pushing these buttons and asking them to start the car, and they start the car. And I thought, I wonder if they could do that. Wouldn't that be really cool? So I pushed the SOS button, and it sort of rang and went through this German-sounding man who came over and said, "Can I help you?" And I explained the situation, and I explained that my wife had gone off the keys. I said I can answer any of the security questions that he wanted to give me that I'd submitted to BMW previously. And I said, look, is it possible if you can start the car? And he just said, no, and hung the phone up, and that was it. So I sat there, giggling and laughing to myself, thinking that was quite funny, until my wife returned with the keys. However, the car does have the concierge service, and I've never tried this before, so I thought I'd give it a go. So these cars, they seem to have this concierge service on the connected drive. I've never tried it before, but I'm just going to dial this in and see what happens. So it says transferring data. Who knows what that actually means? It's taking its time. Placing call, it says. Call active.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling BMW Concierge Service. You're speaking to Griffith. Can I start taking your name, please?
My name's Tony.
Hi, Tony. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
How can I help?
Well, I've just borrowed this car as a test drive, and I was seeing how this service works. I wonder if you could help me. I'm actually, can you find me local places because I'm actually after somewhere that sells caravan spares.
So you would like to go somewhere with a caravan parts?
Caravan parts, yes, that would be good.
Can I have a look for you? Yeah, so the one that's coming up here is Milestone Caravan Limited. So I think the Milestone is the nearest to you. Shall I send it straight to your Sat-Nav?
That'd be great, thank you very much.
And please allow me to end the call if you receive information. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's brilliant. Thanks for your help.
Thank you for calling. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye-bye. Well, that says transferring data. Okay, let's see if this works. So it's going to send it through to my Sat-Nav what does that actually, does it actually go straight onto the Sat-Nav now? Ah, look at this. Conscious Services BMW. So presumably they want me to go there. Let's go here. And I can call them, set them as a destination. Let's go there, see what happens. Start guidance. How cool is that? That's great, isn't it? I was quite impressed how helpful they were, and they just downloaded the destination to the Sat-Nav. All very easy, all very easy. Now, with regards to the sports package being on the car, there is no sports feature in the mode button. On other BMWs, like the 3 Series I had, the button would flick between economy, comfort and sport, and you could even have a sport plus mode. On the i3, even with the sports package as an optional extra, you only have comfort, economy and economy plus. There is no sports option. So what does that tell us? Well, firstly, it would tell you that the BMW are targeting the car at people who aren't interested in sport mode. And secondly, it may be reasonable to assume that the battery wouldn't survive actually having a sport mode in it. I mean, it's not a slow car, to be fair. And therefore the thing is, that second argument becomes almost irrelevant. Because BMW could have called the 3 modes that they put in the car anything they like. They could have called it Eco, Comfort and Sport, but they didn't. They called it Eco Plus, Eco and Comfort. So therefore I'm going to have to assume that the primary reason would be that they are not targeting the car at people who would be interested in sport mode, despite the car's rather sexy big brother, the i8. Now, there are a few little issues that are probably worth talking about as well. One of the first things I noticed was the tyres and the wheels. Well, they're quite big wheels, big tyres, 19-inch wheels back and front, but they're not standard size 19-inch wheels. They are very thin, skinny wheels and rather odd size. Car manufacturers in the past have occasionally come up with odd size wheels, and what that generally means is that you end up spending more money on your tyres, because tyre manufacturers aren't going to mass produce tyres for odd tyre sizes that they're not going to sell a lot of. So it limits the choice of tyres that you can have. It may be something to be aware of. It may not be a problem to you, but it's certainly worth noting. Now, one other thing to note is the doors, particularly the rear doors. Now, the rear doors open the wrong way, or should I say, they open the way like a London taxi. A London taxi doors open backwards. Now, these used to be known as suicide doors, because as soon as you cracked them open a little bit, if you were moving, the wind would catch them, they would fling open fast, dragging the person trying to hold on to them out into the road with them. However, in the i3, you can't open the rear doors unless you open the front doors, which is good. Until you wanted to park into a tight space in a multi-storey car park or something. And then you've got this scenario where you have to open the front door to open the back door, but if you can't open the front door wide enough, you can't open the back door. So that leaves you this point where you have to let your passengers out before you park the car. So you line up to the parking space, you open the front door, you open the back door, your passengers get out, you close the back door, you close the front door, and then you reverse into the space, and then you open the front door and get out yourself. It's a bit of a faff. Saying that, once the doors are open, because there's no central pillar, it's very easy to get in and out. It's very easy to open the door and get in and out. Now, despite this being quite a spacious car, and it is quite spacious actually, I mean it's certainly much bigger than a Ford Fiesta. I'd probably say probably near a Ford Focus, maybe even bigger than that in the front. BMW decided to make it only a 4-seater, replacing the middle seat at the back with a couple of cup holders, rather than having a pull-down arm with cup holders on. Now, I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe there's an issue with carrying 5 people. The boot isn't that big actually, so maybe you wouldn't want to carry 5 people, because you probably wouldn't get 5 people's worth of luggage in it. In fact, if your family was bigger than 5 people, you may even struggle to get a family shop in the boot for more than 5 people. It's not the most generous of boots. I'm not entirely sure what's under the boot floor. Maybe it's the batteries. It's okay for 4 people, probably, but it's not a very generous boot. I would suggest the car is an ideal car for a sort of a 2+2 family. But then, if you had a 2+2 family, why wouldn't you consider the i8? Very sexy, unless you didn't have 100 grand to spare. Now, I've driven the car at night, and this model I have is xenon headlights, and they are absolutely fantastic. The issue I have with them is that, and it may be only a minor one, but it's only xenon lights on dipped beam. Now, the full beam looks like conventional lights, but in comparison with the dipped, they're so dim. So you go from this really bright white light that displays, that lights up the road incredibly well, to a rather dull full beam that sort of does something into the distance, but not particularly great. Minor issue, but I wish it had xenon lights on both dipped and full beam, and that would make a massive difference. Another feature of the car is when you unlock it, all the interior lights go a bit blue, which is a bit odd. And then when you open the door, they go white. How funny is that? I've actually quite enjoyed driving this car around. It may look a little bit different, but then so does my little brother, and I still love him. The range extender on this model does actually make a huge difference. This little petrol motor that it has, that sort of sustains the battery, increases the practicality of the car quite a lot, and actually it gives it more comfortable range and assurance that you will get home. The equipment level in this car is what you would expect from BMW, as is the drive and the feel of the car. I'm a little disappointed it only has 4 seats. I have 3 children, and therefore while I've had this car, I've had to leave one of my children at home all week. But it does come with a good price tag, especially when you compare it with other electric vehicles in its class, like the Nissan Leaf. And so you have to ask whether it's value for money. For me, I would say that it is, but that does also depend on your own personal preferences and your own, what you are looking for in a car. I have to also say that I've quite enjoyed driving it this week, and I have to thank Broad Oak BMW for lending me the car to do this review. Do check out my other reviews, and if you like what you see, do subscribe to my channel. Thanks.